Yep,
Okay.
we are streaming live on Twitch.
Okay.
So if you're ready, I'll do the intro and we'll jump into it.
Let's do it.
Cool. Welcome everybody to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. It is day 9 of the 25 days of Christmas, or well, no, technically day 10. Today's the 9th, so day 10. Math, that's not always been my strong suit. But we have a very special guest joining us. We have Jordan Rayner. How's it going today, Jordan?
It's going great. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Just kind of dealing with this bipolar Texas weather that we're having
Ooh.
right now. So,
Yeah, I understand that. Grew up in it.
yep. It's December and it was like almost 80 degrees today. I was like,
Yep.
all right, well, this is Central Texas. I'll deal with it.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, that's pretty much par for the course.
yep. So, first off, thank you so much for jumping on here. We started talking a couple weeks ago to kind of get everything set up. And as I was going through your Instagram, when I originally kind of stumbled across your Instagram page, because that's how I find music now.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. It's Instagram, not Spotify. You'd think it'd be Spotify, but
Yeah.
it's very
So
much what.
so how do you go about finding new music like that via Instagram? Or do
Like
you
if I'm just looking for something specific, like for this specific situation, I was looking for Christmas music, like
Okay.
because I knew I was going to do the 25 days of Christmas, and I wanted to find Christmas music. So I was
Yeah.
just typing in I was just typing in like Christmas music into Instagram, and then there would just be like a bunch of like nothing that pertains to what I'm looking for. But
Yeah.
then every once in a while, I would see a post like yours where you're promoting your new single that you just released here not too long ago, and then a couple of other similar posts. And I just kind of go through, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh hey, they seem cool. And then of course the whole Texas connection, that's just kind of the
Of course.
icing on the tape or
Yeah.
cake. So, but before we kind of jump into the new release and all that fun stuff, you're Oklahoma born, but you grew up just north of Dallas, correct? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
northeast of
Yeah.
Dallas. What was kind of explain your childhood and growing up in North Dallas?
Yeah, well, my childhood, there's definitely a lot to explain. I'm a preacher's daughter, for one thing. And so my life, my childhood was basically my dad hopping church to church. As you know, we would spend about a year in a church. They'd get tired of us, kick us out, and we have to go find a new church to go serve in. And so I bounced kind of all over the Texoma area, from Oklahoma, southeast Oklahoma, to North Texas. I went to middle school in Whitewright, Texas. So go Tigers. And yeah, that's just kind of that was where my childhood was kind of centrally located. And later in my adulthood, I moved around. I lived in Manhattan for a little while, lived in Southeast Georgia for a while, even went as far as to Southeast Asia.
Mm,
So kind of well traveled for sure.
yeah. So how does a Texas Oklahoman woman fare in the big city of New York? Because New York's it's kind of its own animal, and just
Oh,
like I just know from the reverse of me, I grew up in Chicago, and when
yeah,
I moved to Texas, it was just kind of like, okay, I've got to or not, I've got to like curb my sense of humor because my sense of humor is very,
yeah.
very sharp.
People up north, they have a very dry kind
Mm,
of like very cut and dry sense of humor, and it can come
mm,
off to people down here who, manners. That's key down here. It can come
mm.
off very like a hole.
Yeah,
So yeah, I definitely did not do well in New York, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. So
gotcha. How long did you stay in New York?
2 years.
2 years. Wow,
Mhm.
that's I mean, that's a good enough time to be like, okay, I like it, I
I got
don't
the
like
full
it.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and,
all I needed of that.
yeah. And right now, you're kind of shifting back between Nashville and
Yeah, so
Texas still.
I've got a place in Oklahoma, and I've got a place in Nashville, and I'm doing about 50-50. I come up and I do shows in Nashville, and then I come back down and I do shows in Texas. And there's just a lot of opportunities kind of, between here and there musically, and relationships I'm making. And so music keeps me busy.
Awesome. So, growing up as a preacher's daughter, is it fair to say like music was a part of your life early on,
Oh, yeah.
or yeah?
Yeah, so my whole family is very musical. My dad plays every instrument known to man. My mom's a church pianist, vocalist, and so I grew up in it, grew up playing in church, singing in choirs, all that good stuff, and was even for a short time in my young, like, 20s. I was a worship leader in churches, and then it just kind of somehow wound up playing country music and playing in bars. I don't know what happened.
So there, it was just kind of a subtle transition. There wasn't like a defining moment where it's like,
There
oh
was
hey,
actually a defining moment. So, I used to be married. I'm not married anymore, but, whenever we were about 2 years into our marriage, we moved to the Philippines. We moved to Southeast Asia to do mission work. We had a bunch of stuff go terribly wrong, like, bad wrong, and we came home broke, homeless, carless, jobless. I mean, we literally had nothing to our name except a suitcase full of moldy
oh
clothes.
wow,
It was a very low point, but just about as bad as life gets. And for me, even though I haven't lost my faith in God and I haven't given up on God, that was a turning point for me where it's like, okay, I've done it God's way my whole life. I've done everything by the book. I'm going to do what's in me. And I've always wanted to sing country music,
yeah,
always wanted to go to Nashville. And I just said, basically, screw it. I'm
yeah,
doing it my way.
yeah,
And that was kind of the defining point where I said, this is my life. I get one life, and this is what I want.
yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
so country music was something that you always wanted to do. Who were you listening to early on during your career when you kind of made that transition to, okay, I'm going to start doing it my way? Who were
Yeah.
some of the influences you had?
Well, the more modern artists, Keith Urban, anybody that was a guitarist, because I am first and foremost, I'm a musician, I'm a guitarist, and so people like Brad Paisley, Keith Urban, Vince Gill, people like that were a big influence. And then as I really started kind of walking backwards into country music history, Reba McEntire became a
Oh
huge
well,
influence. Dolly Parton, Loretta Lynn, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash. So those are kind of my core kind of foundation that I really try to keep the torch going.
nice, for sure. And then so early on, obvious. I'm sure there was a bit of a learning curve, kind of transitioning out of the more traditional. These are the songs that you sing or you play while you're at
Oh
church. Going into okay, now I can kind of do what I want to do with start experimenting with your own sound, your own lyrics, writing your own music, and then also putting interesting spins
yeah.
on cover music. So, where does were you like always writing music, or was it not until you had this pivotal moment in Southeast Asia and then coming back and being like, okay, I'm doing it my way? Is that kind of when you started exploring
Well,
writing
I,
your
I
own?
was I was a kid that, like, from the time that I could hold a pencil, I was writing. So writing's always been a part of my life. That's how, I mean, I journaled, I was writing. I always tried to write books and novels when I was a kid. So I even, in my Christian music heavily influenced days, I was writing Christian songs, writing gospel songs. And then just I found a freedom in country music that I could write and tell stories about things that Christian music wouldn't let me write and tell about. And so I just shifted and got to be a little more honest, and I got to be a little more gritty, which I'm a gritty, kind of tough around the edges person anyway. So that was just a good fit.
I see. And then, so kind of moving forward from there, you start a release. Do you immediately start releasing your own music, or does that kind of take a, a little bit to kind of get underway?
It took me a while because it's funny. I went through a time shortly after I kind of decided to move to Nashville and really try to dig in to that culture. I lost my voice. I had a physical disorder where basically I had a one octave range and I couldn't sing, and
Oh
I
well.
I assumed that it was gone and that I wasn't ever going to be able to sing again. And so I started just focusing solely on the writing part of it. I was like, well, I can just make a great living as a songwriter. I don't need to do anything bigger than that. But a few years into my Nashville journey, I went to a doctor that was able to diagnose me and treat me. And I found out that I could sing, and I've got a freaking 5 octave range. And so that opened up a whole new avenue. And so I said, okay, well, what if I did this artist thing? What if I started putting out my own music? And I did. I started putting my own songs out, and people have responded to it. And my career has, uh, gotten wings of its own. And it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah. having been able to go through your Spotify playlist and listen to your original music, and then even earlier today, as I was kind of like really hunkering down to like just kind of fine tune some of the thoughts that I was going to have, I started going through your. I don't remember if it was your Instagram page or your TikTok page, but you started doing like some interesting twists on your covers. One that sticks out to me specifically was uh, you were talking about your hick accent
Mhm.
and if you could do a cover of a Michael Jackson song.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was just sitting there watching it, and I was like, at first it didn't quite click with me because I was like, I mean, you can do whatever song you want to do. It's all like to me, it works. And then
right.
you started singing, and I was like, oh, that really works. Okay,
Oh, well, thank you.
so
Yeah,
that's not kind of the ideal scenario because I don't like associating musicians with cover music. I like associating with their original music. But
yeah,
when you kind of did that, I was just like, okay. And then I obviously I had been listening to your original stuff for a couple of weeks already,
sure.
but yeah.
Sure. Well, something that I try to do because I do right now in order to supplement my income, I
Mm,
play these 4-hour bar gigs and it's 99% covers. And so
mm,
the way that I keep my sanity having having to play shows where I don't really get to play my originals and I don't get to really express that part of myself is I've spent the last couple years putting a set list of covers together and arranging them in a way to where it's like trying to make that song my song. It's like I don't want to just cover Aretha Franklin's
yeah,
song. I want to basically perform this as if I had written it and it came from a place that I, you know, wanted to
yeah.
express. And so yeah, it's just like making covers mine.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of a nice transition into the single you released because you released
Old Town
"Run Run
Prairie song. Yeah.
Rudolph." Yeah, 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 and which is for me, I've not seen anybody cover that song as
Yeah.
far as like
I hadn't
Christmas
either.
ones.
That's why I did it.
Okay, okay, and that was going to be my next question. Why did you choose this song? But
Yeah. Well, it's so funny, man. So my manager had been hounding me basically since March of this year. You need to record a Christmas song. Okay, I'll get to it. You need to record a Christmas song. It's June. Okay, I'll get to it. It's September. You need to record a Christmas. We got to literally 3 weeks ago, and he's like, "Dude, you have got to get a song for freaking Texas radio out." I was like,
mm-hmm,
"Okay." I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I'd always loved the Home Alone movies, and I remembered Run
mm-hmm,
Run Rudolph from the Home Alone movies, and I was like, "That's a cool song that I never hear anybody do. I'm gonna do that." So
mm-hmm,
I wrote out a chart, did a quick arrangement of it, kind of got my acoustic guitar out and found a version that kind of felt cool. And so took that into the studio, gave it to the guys, and we knocked it out. And literally, we turned it around in like 4 days to be able to get it to Texas radio.
yeah. So for the arrangement, were you 100% doing all the arrangements for
Yeah.
all the instrumentation, or did? Okay.
Yeah, so the way that it kind of works, like I'll do a little voice memo recording of it on my phone with just an acoustic, but I've worked out the chord transitions, kind of maybe some of the signature licks that are happening in between verses, and then I chart those out. I got a little here, I'll show you. Actually, look here. I've got the chart that I wrote out sitting right here in front of me. So this is what it
Oh well.
looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
hand that to the guys and then they run it. And I'll say, yeah, man, that was really close. Can we try, maybe like a bit of a different feel on the drums for verse two? And then they'll run it again. We took about 3 takes is about
Mm-hmm.
all it took. And we got a really great recording. So yeah.
You brought up the drums specifically, which is something that stuck out to me about this song.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know, I'm not 100% sure why, because I'm not a musician. Just when certain things stick out to me and it happens to get brought up in the podcast, I have to bring it up.
Yeah.
It didn't sound. Were they using like I don't know the more traditional like in marching band when they're using you got the big bass drums and they got like the softer drumsticks with the pads on it. Were you all using that for the drum kit or
It was a regular drum kit and regular sticks.
okay?
I mixed
It
the song myself. And so that's probably just something that,
because it just sounded like the hits sounded softer if that makes any kind of
yeah.
sense. Okay.
Yeah, it was more. I mean, like I said, I mixed my own stuff, and I did kind of tuck the drums back a little bit to give room for everything else. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because it just sounded like when the sticks were hitting, it was like hitting on a piece of cloth, or it just sounded different to me. But
Gotcha.
I'm not a musician, so what do I
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
no, that's cool. And so then Run Run Rudolph, that just kind of it came together out of your manager saying, "Hey, do this, you got
Yeah.
to do this," and then it was like, "Oh crap, it's
Yeah. It,
almost
it
October."
was it was very much like cramming for a test the night before, and
Hey.
it all came out fine. But yeah, I was just like, okay, I will do a Christmas song. Here you go. Here's your
I
Christmas song.
it's kind of interesting. A lot of the Texas musicians that I've had more Texas musicians on this week than I've had in the last year, which is
Huh?
wild. I nothing like I don't have anything against Texas musicians, but for whatever reason, they're always from Nashville or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
so. But yeah, every one of them prior to you said, "Oh yeah, the reason I did a Christmas song this year was because had to get it out for Texas country radio," and
Yeah.
they all verbatim said the exact same thing, and I'm like, okay, there's
Yeah.
something to that then.
Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah. Well, it's a good time.
yeah, and so then Run Run Rudolph, it's out now, it's on Spotify, all that
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Yeah.
Was there obviously with it kind of being like a quick coming together quickly? I'm not going to say thrown together quickly
No,
because
it
that
wasn't
sounds
thrown together, but it did come together very
yeah,
quick.
everything kind of coming together very quickly. Um, are you already thinking about next year, doing something for next year,
Yeah.
or are you kind of like, okay, I did this, now let's kind of see what the rest of
I'm
or the yeah.
always looking ahead. So I've currently just this past week a duet has dropped on Texas radio with myself and an artist named Shane Porter. That's Shayne, Shane Porter. It's called "You Made a Rock." So that duet is currently out on Texas radio, and I'm also going to be hitting Texas radio in the new year with a song called "Crossfire." So you definitely
Yes.
want to be watching for that as well.
Nice, awesome. I do have to put this one out into the universe because I've already told too many people about it. I so in 2021, my buddy and I we started a rock radio show out in Roswell, New Mexico,
Yeah.
and then the radio station went from indie rock or alt rock to strictly Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, so
Yeah.
we were kind of cut out, and we had a discussion about a month ago, and we starting in March we are going to rebrand our radio show for Texas Country,
I love
and
it.
we are going to relaunch it and just kind of do our own thing on like one of the 800 internet radio launching
Yeah.
platforms.
I
So
think that's great. Good for you.
it's exciting, just kind of being able to talk to a lot of these Texas artists. It's
Yeah.
like it's something that I want to do, and it's something that I can do. So we're gonna do it, and
I
I'm not gonna
I
rush into it. So
yeah, that's fantastic, man. Congratulations.
thanks. Oh, so with the rest of the year's kind of wrapping up pretty quickly. You got what 3 weeks until the end of the year, something like
Whew.
that.
Yeah.
That's hard to believe already, man. You got a
Man,
little
this year has flown by. It
right.
really has.
Yeah. Oh, and you mentioned that you've already kind of planning for the next year.
Oh yeah.
What's your show schedule looking like for
Yeah. So right now, we don't have a lot on the books. We're talking with several places, but let me pull up the one that I do have locked in for sure. And we're looking at February 21st, and we're going to be in Arlington at Texas Live. I'm going to be performing at Texas Live on February 21st. So if you're in the
nice,
Arlington area, you definitely want to be checking that out. And
nice.
we do have a few more that are in pencil right now. So be checking out JordanRaynerOfficial.com. All my tour dates are going to be on there, and they'll be updated as we get shows. So
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. I will definitely. Arlington is not very far from Waco, so
yeah.
I
Oh yeah,
will.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's funny
it's
that
a.
you're in Waco, man. I used to do a lot of work in the prisons down in Gatesville, so I know that
Oh,
area very well. Yeah.
yeah. It's a. I get the opportunity to kind of explore a lot of parts of Central Texas that
Yeah.
not many people go to because I
Mhm.
work in the I work for the ABC affiliate here in town, and so we just kind of go all out to these really small towns, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I would have driven right past this town
Mhm.
in any other situation. So
Yeah.
no, it's cool. Central Texas has been cool the last 3 years. I've
I
been
love it.
here
I
three
love
years, so
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Oh, so this is a Christmas themed podcast that we're doing here today. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a few specific Christmas questions.
Of course.
So growing up, was Christmas a big part of your life?
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We've got we're a very tight knit family, and we've all got our traditions. And Christmas Eve is kind of the gathering night where we all gather around, and we've got snacks that we've made, homemade candy,
yeah,
and everything. I mean, we stuff our faces. That's all we do for a whole day is just stuff our faces,
yeah,
play board games, all that
yeah.
stuff, and then yeah, Christmas Day usually open a few gifts, and
Yeah.
it's always been a big thing. Yeah.
Nice. And what are your plans this year? Are you gonna pretty much
I'm gonna be in
tradition?
Oklahoma. I'm gonna be in
Oh,
Oklahoma with my family. Yeah.
awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
And then grow. So normally, what we do on the podcast is we play this game called Rapid Fire Randomness, and I have a random question generator,
Okay.
and the questions get silly and fun and
Okay.
thought provoking and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I try early on during this 25 days of Christmas, I tried to take those questions and convert them to Christmas questions,
Okay.
but it just got too time consuming because
I
it's like,
understand.
so I have like five standard Christmas questions that I'm going to ask you, and we'll just
That
kind of,
sounds great.
so awesome. All right. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
Definitely Christmas Vacation.
I honestly thought you were going to say Home Alone.
No, no,
No,
that's in the top three for sure.
because obviously Run Run Rudolph, you brought it up, but
Yeah.
like the last four artists, they've all said Home Alone, and I'm like, it's a good movie, but I feel like
It's
there are
not the
better
best. No, Christmas
Christmas,
Vacation is
yeah,
hands down the best of all time.
and takes place in my home city of Chicago.
That's right. That's right.
So
Cheers.
awesome. And then if you had to take any one of Santa's eight reindeer home as a pet, who would it be? Or well, I guess technically nine, but who's counting?
Well, considering I don't really know the personality traits of all the reindeer, I'm probably just going to go with old homeboy Rudolph, just
Fair.
because he might help me get Twitter famous.
That's fair. That's fair. And I said last time I was going to retire that question because everybody just says Rudolph, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so, uh, and then what is a fond memory of a Christmas growing up in Oklahoma, North Texas area?
Okay, I got a good one. I got a good one for that. So, the year 2000,
Mm-hmm.
we had in Texas, in North Texas, probably one of the most historically catastrophic ice storms
Mm-hmm.
in North Texas. I mean, we had ice literally that thick piled
Yeah.
on to everything. And so that Christmas, I had gotten a drum set for Christmas. And I was like so excited. Oh my gosh, I got a big red drum set because I'm a drummer as well. And I just remember like us watching power lines exploding, and like there was rumors of houses catching on fire, and I was just like, this house better not burn down with my drum set in it, a brand new drum set. But we had no electricity for like 4 days, and so I remember Christmas in North Texas being huddled and
Yeah.
in front of a fireplace. We built just an old school fire in the fireplace, and we were just huddled around it for 4 friggin' days trying not to die. So that's probably the most memorable Christmas.
Wow. I think I remember our weather guy telling me this story because either in 2000 he was in Amarillo and like firsthand experienced it, or
Yeah.
he was still at Texas Tech and just kind of being in Texas. Obviously, you're going
Yeah,
to hear
it
about
was
it.
a
So
big deal. It was like historical. Yeah.
yeah, well, I couldn't like I thought what we went through in not last year but 2020 was bad, and yeah,
That was pretty bad. That was a bad one.
or 2021, yeah, 2021, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that was that was rough.
It was pretty horrible.
Yeah. And then final question is, was there ever a memorable gift that you got?
Yeah, well again, the drum set is definitely a memorable gift, but I'll tell you, The worst gift I ever got was from my great grandmother, and it was a fuzzy sweater. I mean, like the fur on it was that long, just
Wow.
fuzzy sweater, and it was like multicolored. Like
Mm.
there was 1,800 different colors on it. And she got that for me, and we opened it on Christmas Day, and my mom made me wear it all day just to make grandma happy, you know. And
Mm.
I couldn't wait to get that thing off.
Mm.
So I was
Wow.
spent all day in that sweater, and I'm pretty sure that I hid it or tried to throw it away as soon as we got home. But,
Oh, I've had definitely had a couple of situations like that.
oh yeah,
One, I got caught in a bad situation because I had this great uncle that I'd only see like at like community picnics like every once in a while, and I wouldn't ever consider him like a great uncle because
uh huh,
he was like just kind of that distant of a family member.
right,
And I think it was like one year for Christmas he bought me a watch,
yeah,
but it was like an old man's, like a really old man's watch. It had like my mom, he gave it to my mom to give it to me for Christmas, and my mom saw it and was like, yeah, he's not going to wear this. Like, he's, but, you know, she still kind of took it, and then she just kind of hid it aside and said, you're only going to see him once, maybe every other year, and it's not going to be that big of a deal.
yeah.
I saw him 4 months later, and he's like, oh, you're not wearing my watch that I got you? And I'm like,
Oh,
and I
the
look at my
odds.
mom and she's like, "Oh yeah," or and she made up some like excuse, and I'm like, "All right, I don't know what's going on here, but okay, we'll roll with
Hilarious.
it."
Yeah,
So
like what are the odds?
yeah,
Hilarious.
for sure. But anyways, so that's kind of the random fun part of the
Okay,
podcast.
I love it.
Awesome. Oh, so obviously you just got, or not obviously, you just got done doing a show this afternoon or
Yeah.
early evening. How'd the show go?
It went great, man. I played to a full house tonight and absolutely had a ball. We wore ourselves out, and I am tired.
I feel that. I feel it. It's, you know, and it's Friday. It's kind
Yep.
of the end of the week, and it's and how many shows do you have? How many more shows like that do you have this year, or do you do those often? Or
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've probably still got probably 10 shows left this year.
gotcha. And are you doing that as like a solo thing, or you got it like working with a band?
I've got a small band that I
Mm,
work with, and we friggin' rock it out. We rock them honky tonks out.
nice. And this is all in. You're in Nashville right now,
I'm in
right?
Nashville right now.
Right.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got about 10 more shows here in Nashville this month.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm can't wait to get back to Nashville. I haven't been there since 2020, since right before the pandemic.
Oh yeah, a lot
Um,
changed. It's blowing up.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I went. I had a decision to make earlier this year. I had like time for one trip, and I was like, okay, do I want to go to Memphis or do I want to go to Nashville? And I had some friends that were happened to be in Memphis, and I was like, well, I've never been to Memphis. Let's go. And
Yeah.
so I ended up going to Memphis instead of Nashville, and
Well,
yeah,
you're overdue then.
yep, 100%. I'm actually February, end of February is when
Okay.
I'm going.
All right. Well, you got to
So
hit me up and come catch a show.
oh yes, oh yes, and I will do my best to hit that Arlington show that you
Yeah,
have.
please
So
do. Please
yeah,
do.
it's one of those things where I'm trying to get out more. The pandemic, because I moved to Waco like 4 months before the pandemic hit,
Oh wow.
and so it was like right before Christmas, and I was just kind of doing all my family Christmas stuff with my family up in Chicago and Florida. You know, like my family's kind of spread out and whatnot. And then it came finally January, February, things started to settle down a bit. And then they were already talking about COVID and the pandemic. And I'm like, okay, let's see what this does. And then March hit, and I was like, okay, well, here we go.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yep. I hear
here,
you.
but anyways, once again, I do want to thank you so much. If people want to hit you, or follow you on social, listen to Run Run Rudolph, or any of your other wonderful songs that you got on Spotify and all that stuff, where's the best place to find all your information?
I mean, listen, my name is Jordan Rayner. That's Rainer. So if you Google me or you type that in into any major social media platform, I'm not hard to find.
Awesome,
Yeah.
perfect. And you're pretty. You've got some great contact on or content, not contact. Wow, it is Friday. You can tell. You
Yeah.
got got some great content on Instagram and TikTok and all that fun stuff. So
Yeah,
anybody that's
listen, the TikTok thing is blowing up right now. It's going great. So if you really want to get an idea for my personality and my sense of humor, go check out my TikToks. You'll
yeah,
get a good laugh out of it.
100%. I agree. But once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Really appreciate
Pleasure's
you.
mine.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. For anybody that's not following Live and Amplified, go to our website, liveandamplified.net, and you can find all our socials because I just recently found out our socials aren't as clean as I originally thought they were. So luckily I have them all tagged on our website. So just go to liveandamplified.net and you can also find the feed for the podcast and some other fun stuff we're doing on there. And then, yeah, other than that, thank you everybody for tuning in and we will catch you all later.
Thank you.
Cool.